Hey everyone, welcome and thank you so much for being here today. We're going to kick things off. My name is Mark Chapman. I'll be your host for today. We have an amazing speaker, Emily Foster. Before we get to Emily's presentation, I just wanted to share a little bit about myself and our company, the I Do Society. The I Do Society is today's event sponsor. And I want to share a little bit about us before we dive into Emily because I want to share why we have these events. The I Do Society was started in 2010, and we have become the wedding industry's most trusted advertising agency. And what that means is we focus exclusively on paid advertising campaigns for wedding businesses. So think Google ads, Meta ads, TikTok ads, anything where you're paying money to an advertising platform and you want to generate a consistent stream of quality leads. So we love paid advertising. We don't do website development. We don't do organic SEO. We don't do organic social media. We trust that to people like Emily. But the reason why we do these live learning events is because advertising doesn't live in a silo. It doesn't live alone. When you run paid ads, people click on your ads and they visit your website, and your website has to convert them. Or they visit your Google reviews and they want to see great reviews. So advertising doesn't live in a silo, and we're doing these live learning events to bring in experts like Emily so that she can teach us how to make sure that your ad campaigns can work even better, right? And the money you put into the ad campaigns, whether it's Google, Meta, TikTok, turns into quality leads. It's really complicated. It's not just advertising in a silo. So we have invited Emily here, and she's going to teach us all about creating an FAQ section on your website that sells for you, which I'm so excited about. So I'm going to pass this over to Emily. And Emily, I'd love for you just to share a little bit about your story and who you are before you dive into the content.
Yeah, hello everyone. Thank you for taking the time to be here on a Tuesday morning. I'm very excited for this conversation, especially because, like Mark said, I think that ads and effective websites very much go hand in hand. I think we forget it sometimes. Like, we think ads are a quick solution to all of our problems, but then if you don't have that base for people to come to on your website, then they can fall flat and basically burn money. So I'm really excited to talk about how to be more effective with that. I own Emily Foster Creative. We do branding, website design, and marketing for wedding pros, marketing on the organic side, and then partner with people like Mark for doing any kind of paid advertising for clients. I actually come from an advertising background. So I worked in advertising and marketing agencies for several years before starting my business, and we've been in business for 5 years now. So during that time, we worked with all kinds of different wedding pros, like basically every kind of vendor that you can think of. I love it so much. I was getting married around the time that I started my business, which inspired me to start this because I was already in the marketing agency world and then also in the wedding industry as a client. And I'm always thinking about how to bring to you that kind of world because I think that also places a lot of value right now. So I'm really excited about this presentation, not just because of the strategy and the marketing aspect, but I updated it recently with more details for Gen Z, which I am kind of a zillennial, like Gen Z millennial, and really excited to talk about that. You all might be tired of hearing about Gen Z, but I think it'll be really fun to get into some of the things. And everything we do is very strategy based for clients. So you'll hear a lot of that. While we love making things pretty and designing beautiful brands, working with color palettes and everything, I really want everyone to see an ROI because we're all small business owners trying to make our dollars go the farthest.
It is so true. Yeah, it's awesome, Emily. Well, thank you so much for just sharing a little bit about yourself. We're so excited to learn about FAQs. Let's
Yeah.
do it. I know you've got
Okay,
some great
awesome.
slides.
I'll share my presentation. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Great. So I can see like the little window with everyone. I don't mind if it's like collaborative too, if you want to like interrupt with any questions, Mark, if you see anything in the chat or Carissa.
Cool.
I'm super excited to get into it. So for context, I thought about the FAQ section for a while. This is something that like we've been working on with clients for years. So we do branding and website design. We also write copy for clients as part of the process. And I think this topic is even more important now than it was maybe 4 or 5 years ago when I was first thinking about it because of how much AI is really making a difference in our business and the need to be even more competitive than we were before. And also, kind of in that like post pandemic society where you need to show even more value. There's more businesses in the industry. And so that's always why I'm thinking of ways like how can we set you apart even more? And with that, I know a lot of you are very busy and overwhelmed. I think wedding pros always have been. But I think that we have even more challenges with our time now. And I really believe that your website needs to sell for you. If your website isn't selling for you, then at the end of the day, it's just kind of a pretty billboard that has some of your work up on it. And I think a common misconception in the industry is that your website should be a portfolio. That's partly true, but if it could be a portfolio, then you could just have a Pixie Set account and call it good. Where your website actually needs to be this conversion tool, especially if you're paying to run ads to it through social media or Google. And like AI ads that we're now seeing now, like through ChatGPT or Claude. So that's why the purpose of this presentation came to be. And we're going to talk and dive into that. So the reality is, I know everyone wants to book more clients. I'm the same way. I think that's the biggest thing that we talk about in the industry is like, how can I book more clients? How can I find more aligned clients? Have a consistent lead flow, everything like that. But the other reality is that this industry is so saturated, and to your clients, almost none of them have been through this process before. So we have to think about like, how do we capture their attention when you're one of many choices? It's pretty rare that you're going to be the top choice immediately or the like singular choice unless you get lucky and like every single client that finds you is a referral and you're the only referral. So we have to think about really how to set ourselves apart and capture their attention when you're one of many choices. The other thing that I want to bring up is that we're in this information overload age, which is a little bit different even than where we were 5 or 10 years ago. And that's when I mentioned like Gen Z and young millennials. This is like the information generation. You might have also heard like the anxious generation or the short attention span generation or all of these different terms used. But there truly has never been a shortage of information for us. Like most of us have had a computer or a cell phone like at our fingertips since we were 6 or 7, and we've been able to like always get an answer to everything that we want. We've also always been encouraged to get answers. Like that's the way that our schooling might have differentiated from other people is like if you have a question, you go Google it. You get your answers immediately and you like fact check everything and verify everything. And that's just kind of how a lot of us exist in our personal lives outside of our work or academics or anything like that. And so then that extends to the wedding industry, of course. So at the end of the day, your clients, it's kind of like this weird thing. Like, I think that we're getting out of this era of feeling like more competitive and private over like pricing and information because Gen Z is going to find whatever information they want. So if it's not on your website, they're going to find it somewhere else. They're going to fact check it somewhere else. And that's where I think things like FAQs make a huge difference in setting you apart. So if they want the info, they'll find it, whether you provide it or not. I just kind of want that to sink in. Like if you're not providing the information, then one of your competitors most likely is, and your clients are going to those competitors because they can get the information more easily and feel more of a connection and sense of safety with those competitors. So again, most couples have no idea what they're doing when they land on your website. So before they reach out and book a sales call, your job is to educate them. I think that's different than the past, where it's like, I think that we've been told our job is to wow them or show them that we're the best. And I think that you definitely need to prioritize that to a certain extent. But really, it's about like, how can you show value and help them and educate them on this thing that they've never done before? So it's unlike a lot of services, like maybe going to the dentist or hiring an accountant or something like that, where a lot of them have never done it before. I would say the majority of your clients have never done it before. And then also, a lot of your clients have never really had someone close to them go through this process before. Like maybe they're the first of their group of friends that are getting married, maybe their friends previously eloped, maybe their parents didn't have the kind of wedding that they are having. So they are experiencing something new and they don't always have people to consult until they go and find their first vendor. And sometimes that is the planner. Sometimes it's a helpful photographer or a helpful venue. And if you can be that person, then you're more likely to win the sale. So if you want to stand out, I really encourage you to think about like how can we educate them through the frequently asked questions. To give you a little bit more background on myself, I'm Emily, like I mentioned. I own Emily Foster Creative, and I got married in 2022 when things were really competitive. for the wedding industry, I would say there were no shortage of leads and bookings back then in that weird year that people experienced. I'm a brand strategist and website designer, so our agency focuses on both creative work, but then also the strategy, the ROI behind everything, making sure that your website is optimized for SEO and now AI rankings, and thinking about not just how can we make you stand out in a beautiful way, but also how can we make sure that this website works for you. I also am kind of like on the younger end of millennials, like I mentioned, or like I call myself a zillennial because depending on the textbook, I am Gen Z or millennial. And we were kind of a younger couple to get married. So now, like getting near my 30s, a lot of my friends are getting married, and it's kind of an interesting experiment, like now being in the wedding industry and wedding industry adjacent, seeing what they're doing and what they're prioritizing, and why they're clicking out of their vendors' websites or choosing to ghost a vendor or make decisions like that that we all talk about from the business side. I am going to educate you today on sales-driven copywriting for your FAQs. And I think there's a few different ways to educate on your website. So we can do copywriting that's sales-driven and helps convert your clients. We can educate through blogs. I don't think blogs are dead. Galleries that give insight into your style and experience. And then we can also focus on your FAQs section. And I think to a certain extent, all of these incorporate into your FAQs, and you'll see what I mean. So if you don't know, an FAQ section is frequently asked questions. These are questions that help to provide value to your clients. And ideally, again, convert before you actually get on a sales call. So they can provide information, educate visitors, not just about your business, but also your industry and your niche. They can also help you stand out from competitors, and they can sell yourself in an informative way. I think that they're highly underestimated, and I'm going to share 4 ways to think about your FAQs. So a few different ways that you can also display your FAQs on your site. I think people sometimes get really like overwhelmed and they don't know where to place the FAQs on their site. So there's a few different ways. It can be a separate FAQs page. We rarely do this for clients because I don't feel like it provides as much value as you think. I think it provides more value if it's in kind of a sales page format. So if you put it on your about page or your services, sometimes your homepage, that's rare that we actually put them there, or something like a packages or investment page where you're informing your client about the value that your business offers, what you provide, and how you provide that value. Backing it up with social proof with things like testimonials and galleries, and then providing FAQs and diving deeper into what those services look like in a kind of a question answer format. We've also included them on contact pages. That can be a great way to share information that maybe is too lengthy for a form, but that you want them to know before they get into the sales call with you. And this is just an example of an entertainment company that we've worked with before. Their FAQs, this one was on their weddings page. And they actually had a different FAQ section on each. They have multiple services in their business. So they do weddings and corporate events, but then they also provide, they're a really cool company. They do like strings and then DJ services and lighting and photo booths. So they have a lot of different services within their business. And this FAQs format allowed us to get really specific on each page about what was relevant to that specific client booking that type of service. So I love like kind of acronyms or anything themed, especially with the wedding industry. So if you've heard of I think it's the 4 C's of diamonds. That was what I put together for the 4 C's of effective FAQs. So we're going to kind of high level overview these. But I really think that you should be strategic with your FAQs in multiple ways so that they're working more. It's about more than just like what is your minimum fee or like what is your percentage or how far in advance should we book. I think that you can dive so much deeper to help your clients directly that visit the site, but then also help with Google and AI searches. So you want to provide clarity. The 4 C's are clarity, connect, charming, and confidence. So with clarity, we're removing any gray areas or questions about working with you. And that includes like any gray areas or questions about the industry in general. We're going to get as specific as possible and give people all of the information that they need, which I think can sound a little bit scary for some people if you're used to like withholding some information until you get on a call. But this is really where we're going to be transparent about pricing, about processes, anything that could be a like winning aspect or a deal breaker to working with you. You're also going to provide connection in your FAQs. So this is where you can show some personality. You can share unpopular opinions, kind of that hill that you'll die on kind of opinion in this section, and set yourself apart from competitors. Being charming is going to also help you show your personality. So this is where you're going to bring in your brand voice a little bit more into the FAQs. This could be like a short paraphrased version of your welcome guide as well, like inviting people to what it would be like to work with you, and mostly creating hype and excitement around the process because we forget that this should be fun. And I think that your clients more so forget that this should be fun when they're in the weeds of figuring out which vendors to work with. And then confidence is going to be really the sales aspect of these FAQs. So it's going to be showing the value that you provide, whether you're a guide, a best friend, a support system for your website visitors, which are meant to be your clients, and how you can boost their confidence in the process and make them feel confident enough to get on a call with you. Another aspect I think that's important to address about this generation is that we're not really the call generation. So if you haven't felt it yet, people want to avoid calls as much as possible, especially video calls, but they want to really just have all the information up front. That's the number one thing I hear from my currently engaged friends is that if pricing wasn't on the website or anything felt kind of shaky or iffy, they are just ghosting or not reaching out to begin with. So any kind of form of confidence that can show that you're a good personality fit, that you know what you're doing, and that they want to work with you will help them feel more confident reaching out to book a call. So how do we actually provide these? I wanted to give you some specific examples, and then I also have a resource I can share with you that's like a checklist that I've customized to a lot of different vendors. I don't think every single vendor type is in here, but if you don't see yourself in the guide, then you can reach out later on as well. So for providing clarity, I want you to focus on questions about the process of what you do and assume that your couples have no idea what they're doing. So just assume that they know nothing about your services or the industry yet. And remember that a lot of your competitors aren't providing this. I think that sometimes it can feel like a drag that we have to provide so much information and education. But if you're doing it, then I promise you're going to be the person that helps connect these people and they are going to feel more confident working with you over a competitor. So I won't go through all of these. You could take a picture if you want to, and I can provide this to Mark and Chris to send out. But for planners, for example, one question would be, what is the difference between full service planning and wedding management? Because as much as we would hope that our clients know, people who've never been engaged before have no idea what full service or wedding management or coordination or day of or anything like that means. I would say maybe day of is the one service that people understand a little bit, but the assumption from a lot of people is that day of means you're going to show up on the day of and you provide services that day, which for the majority of our planning clients isn't the case. There's usually kind of like 30 or 60 day support in advance. For florists, for example, it would be, can you work with my cake designer if I want flowers on my cake? It sounds so specific, but these are real questions that people have in the engagement process. It's something that we wouldn't really think of as a question that needs to be answered because you might have like a no-brainer answer. Like you're like, yeah, duh, of course we can do that. Or no, like, of course I wouldn't do that. And the answer is going to be different for every vendor. So your clients are really looking to see if you're a good fit in that vein. And then for venues, what is your full pricing? And this is one when I was engaged that was such a hard thing to find from venues of actually understanding like, okay, they say the rental fee is like 7,000, but then when we actually break it down in a spreadsheet, there's like $5,000 of extra costs that we need to consider before we even consider food and beverage. So it's understanding that kind of like full picture that a lot of your clients want. But then, of course, every client is different. So you're going to want to do some research and figure out what really matters to your ideal client. Like, for example, if an open bar is the biggest priority that you find with your dream clients, then you're going to want to spend a lot more time providing clarity around your policies for that and making sure that you're a good fit. And all of this is really designed to take those questions out of the sales process. And that's what I mean when I say that this can sell for you, because when you get on the call or you get them to show up for a tour, you don't want to be spending 30 minutes answering these questions. It really needs to be more about making sure that you're the right personality fit, confirming that you can provide the value that they're looking for, and then just talking details from there so that you can send the contract and invoice. And the next one is connection. So with this side of the FAQs, you want to be thorough and thoughtful and personal. So if you're a little bit funny or sarcastic, you want to bring in that kind of personality. And then you also want to focus on trying to answer questions as if you're responding to a client's email. So that's where I think the personality of your unique business can shine, because everyone addresses client questions differently. So I think a good exercise for this would be to think of some questions that your ideal clients would be asking and then answer them like just kind of brain dump. It's okay if your answer is very long. You can go back and edit. You can even like run it into ChatGPT and say like, hey, I want to shorten this. But some examples for this would be like for calligraphers, do we get to give feedback on the designs? And that's an opportunity for you to explain as if someone was coming into your inbox and asking this, like explain what your process looks like. For DJs, it might be what is your MC style? Can you give us an example of you MCing? And you can get creative with the way that you answer these too. Like this one could be a great way to answer via a video answer, like having a text answer on your site, but then also having a little bit of like a video style response, or a video showing your MC style. For a photographer, you could link to a blog post about a recent engagement shoot that you did, and really help visualize with them like what this would look like. And that's what I mean when I say like responding via email. It's sometimes easier for us to like over DM or in our email inboxes feel like we give lots of information, but that's not doing anything for your SEO or your AI rankings if it's all staying in the inbox. So this exercise is really designed to get it on your website in a really nicely designed way so your clients can pick you apart. The next one is to be charming. So it is kind of like connection where we're considering your personality, but after you've written all of your questions and answers, I would say this is the aspect or the pillar of FAQs that has you go back in and edit it to sound as much your brand of flavor as possible. So really going and elevating it with your unique personality. If you're funny, creative, a little bit more sassy, if you have a certain tone of voice, and this is where going through the entire website process is important to understand what is your brand strategy, who are you speaking to, how is your messaging showing up in the world, because if you've done that, then you either on your own or with a good copywriting and design team can understand like how to elevate everything so that it sounds uniquely you. So a couple examples, I'll read the answers as well, just so you get this. But for a planner, it could be, do you offer wedding design in your packages? That's actually a good question because working with, I think we've worked with at least 50 planners over the 5 years. Some planners hate design, some planners hate logistics, and there are a lot of planners somewhere in the middle. So it's not actually as basic of a question as you would think. So the answer that we wrote, of course, design is our bread and butter and makes your day extra special. Learn more about our design packages here. And this is a great opportunity to either link to maybe a brochure of your services or your services page. Or even if you have like a video that talks about this or a blog that goes more in depth, you could also link to a portfolio piece, or anything that you feel is relevant to that answer. And this is going to be vastly different than a planner who's more logistics focused and doesn't like to do the design as much. For a venue, it could be, do you provide a bartender? Then you could say, what's a wedding without a good party? We have 2 licensed bartenders on our team and allow you to host wine, beer, and hard liquor at your wedding. Dance the night away with your loved ones and allow us to handle the booze. So this really shows more of that like kind of party atmosphere that your venue would provide, which again is a differentiator from venues that don't prioritize that as much. The last pillar is going to be instill confidence. So with this, you want to think as of yourself as the expert or the guide, guiding your potential client into making a wise investment in their services. So it's less about being salesy, but I think that one of the best things that we can do in this industry as part of the education process is to make sure that your clients end up in the best hands possible. And if that's not you, that's okay. And that's what the section on your website is for. Because if you are running ads and organic marketing efforts to your website, ideally you want all of that money to convert to being dream clients that are booking you. I kind of have this belief that if you could spend all of your time on sales calls with only clients that would book, that's the best use of your time. So the FAQs are designed to like weed out people that wouldn't be a good fit. Or if they do reach out, then it's clear that they're not a good fit right away so that you can spend your time wisely and then ideally guide them to either working with you if you're an amazing fit, or working with a friend of yours in the industry if they aren't such a good fit for your services. How many of you have heard of building a story brand? I don't know.
Yeah, storyboard is so
Yes.
awesome.
One of my favorite books. There's also like a 2.0 version now. So they talk a lot about being the guide in your client's story. Your client at the end of the day is the hero. You're the guide. One example they use is like if you think of Harry Potter, there's Harry Potter, Hagrid is the guide getting him to Hogwarts. So that's just like a small example of storytelling and the value you can provide as not necessarily being the hero, but providing tons of value to them. So in this section or in this area of your FAQs, when you're considering this as a pillar, you want to be as clear as possible. Leave no questions if at all possible. Like that's kind of part of the clarity pillar too, but really just be honest and transparent in the process. That's where I say some of these uncomfortable things like put your pricing in your FAQs, share your processes. And I think that it's easy, especially if you've been in the industry for a long time because it was a different era, like even like 10 years ago, to like put your guard up and not want to share like IP, not want to share too much information because people can price shop you. But kind of coming back to the beginning of the presentation, people are getting the information no matter what. Like Gen Z is finding it. It's like we're the sleuthing generation. So if you're not the one putting it out there, they can probably find that information about your business somewhere else, or they'll find it from somewhere like another competitor. And then I do say, like, within your own business's boundaries, communicate as much of a support or expert you are. So you don't necessarily want to tell them, like, if you're a planner, you don't want to tell them how to plan their wedding and how to do everything that you would provide, but really give them a taste of what it would be like to work with you. So some examples of questions that would be a good fit is what packages do you offer? What is like your full, I would even add your full all-inclusive pack pricing. Will you help us rehearse? That's a good one for officiants, but it could also be a good question for planners or venues. Like, do you provide a rehearsal in your package? And then for photographers, what is your experience? And this is where it's okay to get wordy too. You can definitely refine and edit, but this exercise will get you showing more information. All right, just quick tips about how to design effective FAQs on your website. Feel free to take a picture of this, but you can include it on an active page, like I mentioned at the beginning, like your About page or your services page. I recommend optimizing your FAQs for long tail keyword searches. So if you're not familiar, a short tail keyword search is something like wedding planner. A long tail keyword search might be something like high-end wedding planner in Los Angeles or something like that. Like the longer that you get in those searches is going to be more of that long tail keyword realm. And I have a few examples, but you want to think about what someone would type into ChatGPT for this. Use design hierarchy, so make sure that your questions look different than your answers and that you have some kind of flow to that. I encourage you to include a call to action button at the bottom of your FAQ section. So something like booking a call or going to your contact page, and then link to your FAQs often. So you can get really creative with this. It could be at the top of your about page, on your home page, at the bottom of blog posts. Remind people to check them out on your contact page. So like before the contact form, have a little blurb of like, have more questions for us before you reach out. Check out our FAQs. And there's so much more possibility for this off your website as well. Like I think that you could probably create a really cool ads campaign just running traffic to your FAQs as a strategy. You could also link to it in your Instagram stories. You could create TikToks, kind of talking maybe about one FAQ and then linking to that in your bio. Okay, for the sake of time, we'll run through this fast. This was fun. When I was adding this to my presentation, I asked my best friend who's currently engaged. I was like, because she loves ChatGPT. A lot of my friends are using ChatGPT like you wouldn't even think about it. It like surprises me sometimes because I think I work with it the most day to day out of my friends group. But I have like one friend who looked for like Chinese Portland restaurants like in the area. Like he was like looking for a good Chinese restaurant and he asked ChatGPT like very specific questions so he could nail down that. I just got back from Japan, and one of the friends that we went with, like, basically planned our itinerary through ChatGPT and like asked all of these specific questions, like was trying to figure out how to get reservations at this restaurant that like we couldn't get reservations at the end of the day because they only take 8 people a night. But he was using ChatGPT to try to like gamify the system. And then my best friend has been using it like crazy for planning her wedding. So some of these were actually from chatting with her about like what she's asking ChatGPT for. So some questions that you could consider, and you would obviously want to reword these for your FAQs, but things like, can you recommend a venue in the Phoenix area that allows for small weddings and will let us bring in any type of caterer we want? It sounds so specific, or for some of you, it might sound really basic, like, oh yeah, that's my venue. Of course I can do that. But this information isn't typically on a vendor's site. This is like information that people have to go beyond and field. Like they have to take the time to inquire with you, jump on a call, get a pricing brochure, and spend sometimes hours just to get that answer about if you're a good fit. We have a budget of 5K for our photographer. Can you recommend someone who provides at least 8 hours and is in the Chicago area? Can you recommend a few wedding venues in the LA area that are open until 2 a.m. and have both an outdoor and indoor space? What color flowers should I have for a February wedding? And what are some do not play wedding songs? So all of these could be turned into FAQs, information that ChatGPT and other AI searches would be pulling into the answers that they're giving your ideal clients. And the best part is that all of these can also be reinvented beyond your FAQs. So this isn't an entire presentation just about one section on your website. It's like kind of this strategic foundation that you can use for other aspects. And what I mean by that is you can turn all of this into extra information, such as blogs, social media content, ads content, and also lead magnets. I think that there's still great value in things like opt-ins, where you can provide a checklist, or a guide that has in-depth answers to those kinds of questions. All right, I will give you the worksheet for this. I can comment it in the chat. For some reason, my brain did not put the QR code in here, but I'll put that in the chat. There's a frequently asked questions list where I have more questions examples, and then it's a little guide workbook to guide you through writing your own.
Emily, that was a lot of amazing information. So please do put the link to the worksheet in the
Yeah, I
chat.
will right
It's
now.
super, super powerful. It took like Emily's presentation here. She just didn't like throw this together. She's an expert and she took time to put this presentation together. So thank you so much for doing that for folks who have come in live today and folks who will watch this later on. I have a huge, huge, huge takeaway here. Like the point of educating people is the FAQs educate people and education turns into quality leads. So thank you so much for that. That's my biggest takeaway. We're going to jump into questions. We've got about 10 minutes. So let's dive into if you have specific questions for your specific business that you want to ask Emily, drop it into the chat and I will be watching this. And we have one already from Gina that says, how many FAQs would be too many? I love that question.
I don't think there's too many. I think it's just about being strategic with how you design them. I would say our venue clients have the most FAQs, and we've seen people have like 40 FAQs on their site, or even like that entertainment company, they probably have about 40 to 50 across their entire site. So I think it's just being strategic about the way that they flow and like the design of them. It's not super helpful, but I would say like a good range is probably anywhere from 10 to 30. But if you have more than that, then I think that's also okay. Just being strategic about like how you put them together in your website design.
I really love the example you shared of someone who had FAQs for each different section or different
Yeah.
service offering of what they did because you don't want it all on one page if you do multiple different types of services. And maybe even like having FAQs on the about page that are more related to your team and then different FAQs on your services page if it's about, I think there's probably a great idea to put more, but like put them in different places.
Yeah, exactly. We've done that. And one question that we sometimes get during the design process is clients will like read through their copywriting and they'll think, isn't this kind of like duplicate information? Because we'll have like maybe they have three services that are very different. Like an example is like weddings, corporate, and social events, which we see like there are photographers, planners, venues that do all of those different types of events. But your corporate clients aren't going to be going to the weddings page to see that question. So it can be important to also repeat the question on multiple pages. I think it's very rare that your website visitors are visiting like more than just one or two of your website pages. So it's like being strategic with how that shows up.
They get where they want to go. They know how to
Yeah.
navigate. It's so true. Actually, there's more questions in the chat, but I have one question for you that popped into my head. Logistically, on our website, like we have an accordion. So like there's a question and there's a plus button, and then the answer drops out, and then you can like close it up so it doesn't look too visually crazy on the website. Is this something that you can do in like show it websites and other types of websites?
Yeah, you can. And I would be so interested in your opinion. I've talked with Sarah Dunn a little bit about this too. We've been experimenting with not doing that anymore.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's hard to say, like, so we do have clients, like I mentioned, that have 40 FAQs. And so we'll do the accordion style because it looks nicer.
Yeah.
But I've heard for SEO and AI searches that that can actually make it harder for the engines to like read the answers.
Yeah.
So I don't think like at the end of the day, it's not going to make or break your SEO, but like if you're like in a very competitive market, I think it can set you apart to like display the entire answer up front, so that Google can like read it in the same layer. And I think it depends like the way that Google reads your text on your site is a little bit different with each platform because every platform has it laid out differently. But yeah, that is like a great way to make it designed better. It's definitely very doable. Like I think Squarespace and Show It are really good about showing that. And then like we've also done that in like Shopify,
Mm.
WordPress, like most of the popular platforms you
Okay.
can definitely
That's such a good
do the
insight.
accordion style. Yeah.
I love it. So someone's asking, they already have my FAQ on its own page. Should I update it and move it to another page?
I think that you could leave it on its own page. You will have some clients like we talk about temperaments in one of the coaching programs I'm in, and there are like these blue temperaments. They're your more analytical clients, or those might be like your analytical buyers too. They will take the time to go to an FAQs page, but then there are also clients that will not read anything. They might not take the time to go there. That's where I think it can be nice to have them again on your services page, like just right below your packages or right below like a section about what you're offering to your clients. That way it's like right in front of them. So I think that like you could definitely leave it as its own page. Maybe also link it on the contact page too. So remind people to check it out there, just so you don't have to completely restructure it. And then I wouldn't be scared to like also repeat the questions on your services pages.
Hmm. That makes sense. I actually like that you acknowledge that there's a spectrum of people. Like some people are the readers, they're going to dive in and
Yeah.
read it all. And there's some people who just aren't. And there's no way, even if you built the most robust FAQ section on your website, they're still going to be like, what does it cost? And you're like, I put it on 10 different pages. But we are appealing to the people who are ready to dive in and read more. And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, my husband and I are like the perfect example of that. It showed up a ton during our wedding planning process, but even now with any service, like I will read every single page of the site, which is funny when clients tell me like, I don't think people are going to read all of this, and it's like, no, I will read all of it as a
Yeah.
buyer. Like, and
Yeah.
I'm talking like different industry, like I'll go read everything on a dentist site and like find out like I'm the person that will like command F search to find out what insurance they take and things like that on their site.
Yeah. So
And my
brilliant.
husband can probably see the pricing like blatantly and still reach out and be like, what's the price?
So,
So,
so, so brilliant. I love it. And like
yeah.
you said before, the whole goal is like people are phone call and Zoom meeting averse. It's okay. That's just the way it is today. I mean, like I'm not Gen Z or I'm a Gen Xer and I hate those things too now. So like we're all there no matter what
Yeah.
generation you're at.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always jokingly say like a lot of us are not always, this sounds so terrible, but we're not really answering calls from our moms. So it's like it's going to be competitive for you to get on a call for them to get essential information when we're
Yeah.
like already fielding calls from our parents.
It's so true. Like that could have been a text message, Mom. Thank you very much.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So one question from Natalie, what would FAQs be? What would good FAQs be for a wedding hair business?
Yeah, I love that, Natalie. I think that Freebie it might have wedding hair and makeup artists. I'm pretty sure I put some, but I think there are so many fun ones. So there could be questions about products. Like you could get really specific depending on your market about like what products you use and what's best. I think hair and makeup trial questions are great of like what will that look like? A huge one for hair businesses too, I think, is anything related to extensions and like what kind of like extensions you provide, what that process looks like, your pricing, like if the cost for things like extensions is included in your pricing. And then also like pre-wedding care outside of the trial. So like if you have recommended like processes or things that they should do. That might be a little bit more skincare focused versus hair, but like if there's anything that they should avoid doing, like X amount of time before the wedding, kind of providing tips about that. And then you could use your FAQs, I think, as a really great way to have people opt into a lead magnet about that. So, like, if there's a question of, like, what should I do to prepare my hair for my wedding day, you could answer that in, like, a short form answer, but then also link to an opt-in, like a freebie, where you could get them onto your email list to get, like, your entire, like, 8-page guide for how to prep their hair for the wedding day.
It's awesome. Brilliant. Thank you for that super specific answer. I love that. Vince is asking if you have different FAQs in different places, would you want different designs for each page, or would you want them to all be the same design and style?
I think it's up to you. Also, hi Vince. I'm so glad you've joined like a couple workshops. It's nice to see you again. But I think that it kind of depends on your brand and your website design. So we have some clients that want it to be identical on each page. But again, if you have like different types of clients, like if you do work with like a weddings, a corporate, and like a social events page, I think it's different. It's okay for them to be different. I think the biggest thing is coming back to your brand guidelines and typography treatment in the guide. So for most of our clients, the design is pretty similar, like because headlines and subheadlines are going to be like the same font throughout the site. And then body copy is going to be the same size and color treatment throughout the site. But like for example, I'm pretty sure that Elegance Quartet example I showed, like our past client, I think we have one of their FAQs on a black background and one on a white background. So I wouldn't get too hung up about like, oh, it has to look identical on each page, if that makes sense. I would say with wording though, like one thing that we do get a lot from clients is like sometimes the same FAQ will be on multiple pages, and that's okay. I think what you just want to avoid is having duplicate pages of content on your site. So like you wouldn't want to have like your wedding services page and then duplicate it and change nothing about the page and have it again. That's where it could kind of ding your SEO, but you can have the same FAQ section repeated across pages. It's not like having one section of text be the same is going to hurt your SEO.
Cool. I love it. So, Emily is talking about FAQs, but I want you to know that she does amazing design as well. And you should check out her Instagram because it's just beautiful, beautiful stuff. So,
Smart.
I know we're really focused on FAQs at the moment. Would you tell folks a little bit about the freebie that you dropped the link to into the chat? I just dropped the link in again, so it's at the bottom and everyone can see it right away. But what is that freebie?
Yeah, so that's going to be kind of those questions that I was showing you in the presentation, but even more in depth of like, so I talk about the 4 C's on that page, and then you can download the freebie. It's going to give you a list. I think I put at least 10 different vendor types in there. Again, if you don't see your vendor type, then feel free to reach out. I know I put calligraphers. I'm pretty sure I put like photo booth companies even, because we worked with all of these different types of businesses. I can't remember, like I said, if I did hair and makeup artists, but it has like an entire page of questions that you could just grab from each page based on your vendor type. And then the exercise is like to go in and answer them and then put them on your website. We do provide design services too, like Mark mentioned. So we're doing more than just your FAQs. This is like one part of the huge process that we do for clients. And we're writing the copy for the FAQs, and then we're also designing your site. And then we also offer branding services. So if you need help knowing how to organize them, we could do that. We also have website audits. So if you wanted to work on this yourself and then run things by us, you could always book an audit with us and we could dive deeper into the FAQs.
That's amazing. Emily, thank you. This is, one of the reasons, and that's for folks that weren't here in the beginning, that came in a little bit late, one of the reasons why we do these events is because the I Do Society focuses specifically on paid advertising. So helping you with Google ads, Meta ads, and TikTok ads, and turn any money you spend on those platforms into quality leads. But those paid advertising campaigns don't live in a silo. And so this is why we bring in folks like Emily to teach us about FAQs and to teach us about design, all the things that she does. Because when people click on your paid ads and they visit your website, if your FAQ section falls short and they don't get the answers that they want, they may not call you. But in the reverse, if you have an amazing FAQ section like Emily's described today, and in her freebie, she's got so many of those great tips, that could lead to more qualified leads from your paid ad campaigns at a lower cost per lead. So I want to wrap up. I'm going to wrap up in a second. I've got a special offer for you if everyone hangs on for just 1 second. But I want to end with this thought of taking action, because you came today, you took some notes. We're going to send out the replay as well if people want to watch it again later. But I want to encourage people to take 5 minutes after this Zoom ends to carve out time to figure out what's next for you in this. Is it downloading Emily's freebie? Is it contacting her about getting your website designed? Take 5 minutes to figure out what's next for you, and don't let the notes you've taken just get filed away and turned into nothing, because we're doing this and you spent time here to help grow your business. And so we've got a special offer for you at the I Do Society. We have advertising kits. For those of you who have not heard of us or worked with us in the past, we focus on paid advertising. We have a done for you service. We also have advertising kits that walk you step by step through how to build your ad campaigns that work. They're based on $30 million in ad spend across the wedding industry. And if you have come today, we would love to offer you $200 off any advertising kit of your choice: Google ads, Meta ads, or TikTok ads. We're going to send out a coupon code for that $200 off in an email right after the meeting ends. But last thing, thank you so much, Emily, for your contribution to this meeting today. It was so, so powerful. I highly encourage everyone to get Emily's free download. And thank you, everyone, for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. One thing I forgot to mention, I will send the link in the chat. But Mark was recently, I think just 2 episodes ago, on my podcast. I didn't mention, I keep forgetting to mention I have a podcast, which is a lesson for all of you. Like, if you have a service, you should promote it more often. But I would definitely check out Mark's episode because the advertising kits are amazing. All of his words of wisdom are amazing on this. And I feel like we'll have to connect about this idea of FAQs as an ads campaign, because it was something that I had thought
Yeah, good
about
point.
only recently, and I'm like, that would be genius for vendors.
You know what? I'm going to put a pin in my head on that, because with our ad campaigns, we're constantly encouraging folks we work with to use education in their short form videos and their ads, because there's different people are at different places in the funnel, right? And so if they've built an incredible FAQ section on their website and they have this all listed out, creating short form videos based on each FAQ and uploading that into meta ads, for example, is an incredible way to help people who don't know anything about you fall in love with you and trust you right away. You
Yeah.
educate them, they see your face, they hear your voice, and it just makes for so much more quality leads. Great idea.
Yeah, I love that. I spent a ton, I think we talked about it on this podcast episode that I mentioned, but I spent a ton of time on TikTok. And that's actually the thing, is like a huge part of TikTok is just people responding to comments. And that's basically FAQs. So there's so much content that can come out of this. I feel like we didn't even fit into like the 25 minutes, but
Ah,
I think it's a great base.
amazing. Okay, thank you everyone else so much for joining today. It was really incredible. Have a great day.